We're here with DNC Chairman Tom Perez. All right, we got to address this Donna Brazile book. You've said that the notion that the DNC was rigged during the primaries is false. But that said, you also have established this unity commission to try to bridge unity amongst the DNC. Are any changes going to be made to prevent some of these memorandums from ever being signed again?
Yeah, well, here's what I said, just to be clear. The Democratic Party doesn't run primaries. States run primaries. And so the notion that we somehow influence the states to do something untoward is just not correct. What I also said, though, is that we have to make sure we up our game. We have to make sure that the process of electing the nominee for the Democratic Party is fair to everyone and that everyone has confidence in it. And in that sense, we fell short. And so what we're doing are things like, for instance, we're going to make sure that all the primary debate calendars are settled before we even know who all the candidates are, so that there's no possible suggestion that we're trying to help one or the other. A number of measures like this that are all designed, including the work with the Unity Commission, to make sure that we're creating a process that people feel is fair and also inclusive, because some of the caucus processes, if you're a shift worker, really hard to get to a caucus, and I want to make sure that everybody can vote who's eligible to vote.
But I think what's interesting, though, about the past couple of days with regards to this is the notion that one candidate, in this case Hillary Clinton, was able to sign an additional memorandum that was different from the other candidates. And just voters outside of Washington, Mr. Chairman, was that appropriate? I mean, I know this was before your time, but was that appropriate for one specific presidential candidate to be given different access to the party than another one?
Well, again, I've been out in Virginia for the last 4 days. I put 700 miles on the car. And with all due respect, nobody's asking about what happened back in 2016. They're all moving forward. Having said that, well, again, the memorandum that you refer to also has a very explicit clause that says this only applies to the general election, and you aren't supposed, and it will not affect anything happening in the primary. Having said that, as I said earlier, we have to build trust in the process, and we have to, in everything we do, and I accept responsibility for that, and we have taken responsibility for that. Make sure that the process is fair and that people feel like voters are being heard and people feel that every candidate has a fair shake. That's what our that's what our North Star is and has been and will continue to be under my leadership.
Do you think that it was fair for those memorandums to be signed the last time, and will that be allowed to happen again in 2020?
Well, again, everything that we do will be offered to everybody. And it's my understanding, again, I wasn't there, but it's my understanding that all of those opportunities were offered to every candidate. Moving forward, we will make sure, and we've already done this with our joint fundraising agreement is a fancy term for a partnership with state parties. And it's a partnership that enables us to raise money to build the infrastructure, the organizing infrastructure, the technology infrastructure for success. We've actually already signed one with all the 50 states now, because we're not waiting until the presidential election cycle to do that. We're building our infrastructure of success right now.
So when Senator Warren says it was rigged, you say what?
Again, as I said before, the states run primary elections. The Democratic National Committee doesn't run primary elections.
Moving on, tax reform, big meeting today up on Capitol Hill. Gary Cohen's going to be meeting with Senate Democrats. Is it appropriate for Democrats to even be talking to this White House about tax reform? In your perspective, is there anything in this tax bill that you guys like, or is this simply a non-starter?
Well, with all due respect, to call it tax reform is a... I don't call it tax reform. It's a colossal giveaway to exceedingly wealthy people who don't need it. I mean, our principles for real tax reform is people who are in the 1%, and I applaud that they have accumulated that wealth, but they don't need another tax cut. And people who are struggling to make ends meet, and you look at, if you have a family member who has chronic medical issues, this tax bill will no longer allow you to deduct those medical expenses. If you are a person who has an educational debt, current law allows you to deduct some of this. What they're trying to do is say no. If you're trying to save for a home, you can't deduct the home mortgage. This is not a middle class boon, as they suggest. This is a boon for wealthy people, and then the elimination of the estate tax is just an unmitigated gift to the Donald Trumps of the world. We don't need to do that.
This is a very busy day for you. You're headed to Northern Virginia tonight for the results. What should we be watching for in terms of where the Democratic Party goes tomorrow morning after these results come in?
Well, I feel bullish. We've got a lot of races out there. We've got an opportunity with in New Jersey with a spectacular candidate. And I think Phil Murphy is going to be able to win going away, and we're going to make history there with Sheila Oliver, the first African-American lieutenant governor. I feel very good in Virginia. Virginia is a purple state. And so it's all about get out the vote. iwillvote.com is where people go if they want to know in Virginia where to go to vote. And the thing that gives me optimism there is that, number one, we have better candidates. They're trying to unite. Ralph Northam has been a healer in his work as a doctor, and Ed Gillespie, his opponent, is a divider. He's using all the dog whistle politics of the last few weeks to try to divide and create darkness, just like Donald Trump. Steve Bannon just endorsed Gillespie this morning, and that embodies what they're about. They're about the politics of fear and division, and Ralph Northam and Justin Fairfax and Mark Herring, who's the Attorney General candidate, are about bringing people together and continuing the progress. 3.7% unemployment is the current unemployment rate in Virginia. That's an enviable unemployment rate. We need to be moving forward. We need to be expanding Medicaid in Virginia. We need to make sure that if you're opioid addicted, you get treatment, and Ed Gillespie's going to take that away, and Ralph Northam's going to make sure people get it.
Last question for you. 2020, is the DNC better or worse position now than it was a year ago?
Oh, I think we're moving forward. We're all about organizing. We're about modernizing our technology. We're about communicating our values and living our values every day, and that all adds up to success. We've been able to win a number of state special elections in places like Oklahoma and New Hampshire in beat red seats. Now today we have opportunities in New Jersey and Virginia in the gubernatorial context, but a lot of mayor's races where I think Democrats can do well. The new DNC is all invested in those races. We've got a state Senate election in Washington State that when we win that race, we will flip the Senate Democratic. That'll give us the Senate, the House, and the great Governor Jay Inslee. That's what we're about, building that momentum, and then we take it right into 2018, where we've got tremendous opportunities, not only in the U.S. House, but in the Senate. That field, the Senate field continues to expand for Democrats.
DNC Chairman Tom Perez, thank you for coming in studio. I take it you're not going to be riding your bike to Northern Virginia tonight, right?
Not today, because we got a lot of
you got to take the car out for that.
But 700 miles so far in the last few days. We're going to put a few more on today.